Hello and welcome to Thread the Needle. I'm Cecily Moore. Today's special episode is very unique. We've got a special guest, and then we're going to talk to the candidates that are running for the 2nd Congressional District here in the state of Illinois. They're wanting to be our congressperson. So, everyone welcome Chairperson, Alderwoman, Miss Everything, Carrie Austin. Hello.
It's my pleasure, Cecily.
Now, please, first before we start anything else, tell the listening audience why I call you Chairperson.
Because I'm the chairman of the City of Chicago Budget and Government Operations. I am the alderman of the 34th Ward. I am the State Central Committee woman of the 2nd Congressional District.
So she just not only reaches her ward, she reaches the entire state. She understands the needs of the 2nd District, and she was out in front for asking for help here in this district, for help not only in the city of Chicago, but going into the Southland area, and she'll explain to you why. Please.
Well, and as you were paraphrasing it, that is absolutely true. Even though I live and work in the city of Chicago, I have more than just that one hat of being the alderman. I have the hat of being the State Central Committee woman, which takes in the 2nd Congressional District. And taking in that 2nd Congressional District, my territory have been enlarged. So in doing that, it's more than just about us in the city, it's about us as a whole. So that's the city of Chicago as well as the south suburbs and the southern lands. And that encompasses other townships as well, other individuals that represent the 2nd Congressional District. So I have to work with them in order to bring resources back to our district.
Speaking of resources, what's our number one priority in this area?
Well, I hope nobody get up and say gun violence.
Why is that?
Because it is about more than just in gun violence. It has to start at the beginning. We as a people say it takes a village to raise a child, but nobody wants to be a part of the village. But in being a part of that village is mother and father. We have to go back and reach mother and father first. Then we can deter the children. We can turn their lives around. We can't say that it starts at home and don't do anything at home.
That's your backtrack.
So, that's right. That's my backtrack. And if we do those things, go back to that parent, for those that may not be as educated as they had hoped to be. That father that may not have been able to get that particular job that they were interested in doing. Maybe there's some training that we should be able to do for the mom, the dad, the whatever, that brings it to the child. Additionally, we as parents got to stop saying the government tells us we cannot discipline our children. Because the Word of God says, spoil the child, spare the rod and spoil the child. And that's what I believe that we have done. We have not taught our children the moral fiber of your life.
So your focus is accountability and responsibility.
That's right.
And it starts at home.
Start at home.
So we start at home. I still do a good job. Little Johnny goes out and gets a gun.
How did Johnny get the gun? Johnny can't buy the gun. Johnny got to buy the gun from somebody. So that means that's that adult.
Okay.
So we need to put more stringent laws on that individual as an adult, because the child can't get that kind of access. They can't go in any gun store and buy no gun. They may can get that product off of the internet, but then you, parent, what are you doing in the home?
Thank you.
You're not monitoring the things that your child do. You just sit them in front of that computer and go to the kitchen?
Right.
All right, you sit them in front of that and do what? Then you, that's not good parenting skills. So you should be in that home as well, monitoring what your child do. There's no way in the world any minds could come in the house with some Air Jordans on and didn't tell me where they come from, especially if I didn't buy them. We need to start questioning these things that go on in our home, question things that go on in our community. How can you allow somebody to break into a home and they say that I believe it was your son, and the first thing you said, no, it wasn't. But you didn't even investigate. Where were you? What were you doing? Whose house were you over? How can I verify where you were at so that you won't be accused of something like this? Well, my child didn't do it. You don't know that. You weren't with them. So quiz that kid. Stay in their business. I stay in all of mine.
We believe you. I heard Van Jones, who used to work for the White House, this current administration, the first year, he said something and it stuck with me for weeks. And what he said was the only way to stop a bullet is with a job. Do you agree with that?
I'd have to dissect that a moment. Okay. And in what context did he mean?
He means we need more jobs.
Well, we absolutely do. But will that stop a bullet? I think that the only thing that stops a bullet is behavior. So, and if that's what people been killing it all for years,
Yeah.
decades. So that's not something that. So you're saying that when we were very lucrative in employment, we stopped the bullets? Then how come we still had wars?
Oh, no, we're going to
Oh, okay then.
So
We
I'm
have
just
banned
telling you
that.
what he said.
I mean, I think that's a mindset that he's trying to allow people to go in as to regarding that we need more employment for our young people. Yes, we do. But we need just as much employment for mother and father
Yeah, I think that was his.
so that they could have a means of being able to sustain their families. So as to say, to do a little Johnny need a job, or maybe a summer job, a job that would teach him abilities. I could see that in that respect. I could see a summer job that the kid can have so that they can learn how to be independent themselves.
Okay, so we're going to talk about jobs. In talking about jobs here throughout the second district, there's so many ways we can go. And the number one way that people are talking about is the third airport. What are your thoughts on the third airport?
I've heard so much in regards to the third airport from the previous congressman. I just haven't heard a solution to how we get from A to B. I need to know how do we acquire this? How do we get there how do we get to off of the talking?
So
And
do you
get
mean
to
how
the
does
doing.
How will the state and the district in particular pay for this, or do you mean how is it all rhetoric right now?
Right, and still will be,
Okay.
because I don't see anybody coming up with the solutions on how we obtain it. Now, if someone can come up with the solution on how we can obtain those things, then I will have a belief in it again. At this point, I have no more belief in it.
Okay.
I believe it's
So
just that a
magically,
pipe dream.
Let's talk about that pipe dream. Magically, there's someone who comes in, bing, we have a third airport. What are the plus and minuses for the second district that you can see?
Well, I see that it is an economic engine, no matter what. No matter if I like it, don't like it, or whatever, it is an economic engine, and it does reach the entire second congressional district and overspill into others as well. But where I do see the drawback for it, for the area that I represent, which is the city side, I don't see any public transportation getting there. The previous congressman said that if they bring an airport, the mayor of our city at the time would make sure that there is public transportation. I think that that's absolutely impossible from the district, from where we're out now, in order to get out to Peatone or wherever it's going to be. And for our people to use public transportation to get there from the distance of where we at to where Peatone is at. But I don't see that being done.
So this is obviously.
I don't see anything on even on transportation books to say that we're going to do that.
So then it becomes not just a district issue, not just a state issue, it becomes a national issue because you
Federal.
need help on all levels.
Federal.
So when we start talking about federal, let's transition and bring that into play. On the federal level, the person who is in this building will be the next congressperson, I'm assuming. So in that being the case, what do you think that person who is in this building, who will be the congressperson, needs to do to bring here that we can use those funds, those resources, those tools, those job creation ideas to make us more burgeoning, and particularly in the second district?
I don't think that that's going to happen in their first term.
Okay. Because it's a special term and it's shortened?
Absolutely. And for the things that are at hand now are the things that that individual will have to work on when they arrive in Washington. It's not something that they will be able to recreate, even though that has been on the books so long with our previous congressman. I don't believe that whomever that's in this building, that when they go to Washington, that they will be able to pick that up and move it along, because there's too many critical things on the table as it is. And would it be in a short term, in this term, I don't think they'll be able to accomplish that. But if given an opportunity in the following term, I believe that they would have a better grasp on the things that are needed, desperately needed in the district.
So they're walking in the middle
Right.
and trying to clean up and
Right.
keep going. Okay.
Absolutely.
I understand. Anything else you want to tell our viewers about your take on this second congressional district race?
Well, I think that all that are running, I do hope that they're not just running for the position in regards to the salary. I hope that they have a genuine desire to do for this district, because we are in dire, desperate need of economic development, better education, stricter gun laws, those things that are set in place. if you've had an opportunity to be in politics already or serve in any particular field, you didn't have to do it being a congressman. You could have did it right on your block.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you, Chairperson, Alderperson,
You're more
Vice
than
Chair.
welcome, Vice Chair.
I love it. We'll be back after a few moments.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Thread the Needle. We come to the most exciting part of this week's episode, and this week we're having the Candidates Forum. We've got wonderful people here, and most importantly, we've got two fantastic moderators. Again, I introduce Chairperson Austin as well as Carl West. Carl, go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience because they haven't met you yet.
Hi, audience. I'm Carl Carl West, and I am the managing editor and founder of Truth Be Told News Service, and also co-founder of Next Generation Leadership Council. It is a public policy organization where we look to empower the next generation of leaders in business, community service, politics, and business. That's it.
Okay.
And again, I'm Alderman Chairman Kerry Austin, the Alderman of the 34th Ward, the State Central Committeeman of the 2nd Congressional District. And I think that I'll be the starter off since we didn't toss a coin. We'll
Well, of course, ladies are going to always go first.
Oh, wonderful.
Especially when they're chairperson.
Thank you, Carl. And let me also ask to the candidates, you all just relax. This is going to be a fun time. We're not here to gouge any eyes out. We're not here to do any embarrassment. We are here to inform the public. And with that, we'll start out with our first question. In the 2nd Congressional District has many areas in both the city and the south suburb that suffers from extreme poverty and homelessness because of the economic meltdown. What would you do, or what programs would you support to create affordable housing in our district and economic development? We'll start with Mr. Fenton.
Oh, wow. Ernest Fenton, that is.
Fenton, I call you that.
No, that's fine. A lot of people make that a mistake. But in any event, one, we know that the foreclosure crisis has decimated many of our communities such that they look like ghost towns. I know that there are programs available whereby if it's a home that was underwritten by the Housing and Urban Development Department, that the HUD department will sell those homes to the city for $1. So one idea I have is to have the city purchase a lot of those homes, work with private-public partnerships with people in the community who are tradesmen to rehab those properties and then provide, allow those properties to be a safe haven for those who have lost their homes or otherwise who are homeless.
Carl?
Well, here's a question that I want to ask to you. I would go with toy.
It's like Bozo Circus, like you're next.
Interesting.
Community services facilities are needed throughout the district to address mixed housing, job development, and training. What role would you play, and what programs or initiatives would you support in advocating for those issues?
Well, I'm Toy Hutchinson, and I'm Senator of the 40th District. My district goes from the south suburbs all the way down into Kankakee, and I think that's an excellent question, largely because as a mother of 3 kids, the biggest issue we have is that there's no place to go. So, and I think all of us see that in our communities, is that after school, because it's not just it's job training, and it's also community development, and it's also after school care programs, and there are very few places where we can house those programs. One thing is I think that we need to pull together the brick and mortar structures that we have and combine resources every time we can. Our school buildings, outside of extracurricular activities, sometimes are vacant after school. And those classrooms could be utilized for things like job training. Those classrooms could be utilized for extending the school day. If we know that between 3 and 6 p.m. every day is the most dangerous time in the day for an unsupervised kid, that is after they get home from school and before an adult gets home from work, that we've got to do everything we can to make sure that not only are after-school care programs extensions of the school day, so they get the tutoring and the school help that they need, but that parents can be assured that there's someplace safe for their kids to be, that community residents don't have to be afraid of kids just hanging out. That parents who need to retool and retrain, and then we can also use community colleges for this. The two community colleges are the most nimble institutions we have that can train and move quickly to retool and certificate people who are trying to get new jobs. There's a lot of things that we have existing in the community that we don't link as well as we could. And where there's funding that we could utilize from the state and the federal government, we all need to be pulling in the same direction to make sure that what the resources we have are used to their highest and best ability, but to also make sure that we're tying in and linking in programs that work together that support each other. Parents who are out of work need to be retrained. Kids who are out of school and don't have any place to go need some place to be. Our communities need to be rebuilt in ways that cannot happen if we continue talking about it in silos. So a comprehensive, holistic look at the structure that we have and tying those things together has to be done with someone who has the leadership to be able to pull those strings together. And I think at the end of the day, if we don't do that, if we don't concentrate on really the programs and the needs that we need to uplift people in the community, we won't see any significant changes, because that's not going to come from up high. That has to come from us. That really has to come from us.
Thank you, Toy. I would also like to get a comment from Green Party, Lee Allen Jones, on that question. Do you remember the question? I will. Community service facilities are needed throughout the district to address mixed housing, job development, and training. What role would you play, and what programs or initiatives would you support in advocating for those issues?
I think when we look at you look at the commercial property that's available within the second district, where you have shopping malls that have become voided, those types of places not only have the capacity to take up the infrastructure to deal with after-school programs, they also have a great deal of potential in terms of sustainable energy. People think that because you're green that it's some kind of different thing, when it really isn't. When you look at the Green Party and what it stands for, if we would have gotten the 40 acres in a mule after the Emancipation Proclamation, we would have lived more green as a community, because we wouldn't need government services to take care of that. When we talk about training and after-school programs, we dismiss the fact that the only reason that we have to talk about them in that capacity is that there's been a fundamental breakdown in the family. So irrespective of how much we want to talk about the infrastructure, the true infrastructure to deal with the issues of the second district are all emphasized on the family. Harping back on what Senator Hutchinson talked about, the fact that we all have to get our ships lined in the same direction. There is a tremendous amount of social service dollars that have gone into the second district. Those resources, in my estimation, more times than not, those resources are not utilized to stabilize the core family structure in dealing with the issues that are going to mitigate the criminal elements that end up taking away the economic development of the community. So me as a Green Party candidate, I look at the long-range views of where this community has to go, not within 10 years, not within 20 years, but in the 50 to 60-year range. When we look at the fact that communities like the second district, a lot of their income comes in and goes right back out. So until we have community financing, until we have strong families, until we have energy independence, and being able to work all of those things in concert, we're going to be spinning our wheels dealing with the fundamentals of your question.
Thank you, Lee Allen Jones.
Alderman Beal, we want to go back to our first question. Now that Carl has really in depth on the question that we have for number 2 in regards to that, we won't come back to that one again. But in regards to our first question, the 2nd Congressional District has many areas in both the city and the south suburbs that suffer from extreme poverty and homelessness. Because of the economic meltdown, what would you do, or what programs would you support to create affordable housing across the district?
Well, I think what we need to do is really look at what I've already done in the 9th Ward as far as affordable housing. You look at right now, we've rehabbed 1,300 units in the Augill Murray community, and we still have 600 units to go, and that was a total of $245 million that we've already spent, money that has come through HUD. And so we've already started addressing the problem with the affordable housing issue that we have that's going on right now, and the fact that we've already rehabbed close to 70 units of regular housing through the Neighborhood Stabilization Fund that comes through the federal government. That was one of Barack's initiatives. It was the Neighborhood Stabilization Fund. So we've already taken advantage to try to stabilize the housing market, because we all know that when the economy took a turn, it really hurt my seniors more so than anybody else. And that's one of the big reasons why I built more senior housing than just about anybody in the city of Chicago, to address that issue. But the same issues that affect the city of Chicago also affect the South Suburban area. So you have to have somebody who has the experience already with rehabbing affordable housing units, making sure that we take advantage of the neighborhood stabilization funds, and being able to address those housing issues. That's what we need to, really look at. So, with all respect to Mr. Fenton here, there are no more dollar properties. I don't know, if there were still dollar properties out there, I think everybody would be taking advantage of those properties. That program has been gone for about 15 years. But again, we need to look at it from a holistic standpoint. But we can't look at the housing issue unless we address the job issue. You can put people in houses, but if they don't have a job to afford the mortgage and to keep the house up, then we're just spinning our wheels. The biggest issue that's facing the 2nd Congressional District right now is jobs. So jobs have a direct reflection on the crime. We're talking about crime is up in the 2nd Congressional District. That's because the people don't have jobs. And so we have to have somebody who knows how to bring those jobs back to the district in order to make sure, we can start addressing the foreclosure problem and the housing stock that's constantly going down. And so that's why I'm a big supporter of the 3rd airport, because that's going to be a total of 150,000 jobs once that airport is built and operational. But again, what we need to do is make sure we take it a step further and connect the airport with our roads, our rail, and our port system in order to be able to import and export goods to create a few 100,000 jobs on top of that airport issue. And so, nobody else has a total comprehensive plan in this district other than myself. I'm a job creator. I have the city's largest development going on right now off the Bishop Ford Expressway that's created, it will create close to 4,000 jobs once it's fully developed and built. And we've already addressed the food desert issue in the 9th Ward, because we were a food desert. So there's a whole list of things that really go on. So there's no one issue that's plaguing this 2nd Congressional District. It's 4 or 5 issues, and unless you have somebody who's already started addressing those 4 or 5 issues and has experience with those 4 or 5 issues, I think we need to make sure that we send the best qualified person to Congress right now. And I think I have the experience, the dedication, and the know-how to be able to step in and hit the ground running.
That's very good.
I'm glad you mentioned. Did you want to chime in?
Yeah, I've been
Wait your turn. We're gonna get to you.
I've been very.
Alderman Sherman, you want to give him that question, Alderman? You wait your turn. We got you.
He wanted to jump in. He didn't want me to ask him. So now you're going to jump in, Greg. Don't worry about a thing.
You want to restate the
no,
question again for you?
really.
You already have the question. You got it?
Okay.
And thank you, really.
There you go.
And just so someone can get, so I'm Gregory Haynes.
I was coming to you next, actually. I want you to better answer my question.
Right.
But I'm Gregory Haynes, and actually, I like to say the real jobs candidate here. I worked in workforce development for the past 30 years with the Department of Employment Security, and I've actually have worked directly with employers in every industry and/or, let's say, basically in providing them with candidates so that they can be what we call globally competitive. The real issue here, of course, as we've always emphasized, is job. Okay, I work directly with individuals or even oversaw people, okay, or programs to ensure that they got placed in these jobs. Someone has already stated that we have to make people job ready, basically. And there's a system in place, and that's why I'm running. There's a system in place right now. It's called the National Public Employment Service System. And that main responsibility under what we call the Workforce Investment Act, which was in 1998, the main responsibility is to match people with jobs and also employers to get them qualified candidates. I don't know if anybody's aware, but if someone looked for work or looked for some assistance in finding employment, they generally would go to what we commonly refer to as the unemployment office. Okay, that's an oxymoron if you're looking for work. Generally speaking, you need to have some assistance from a workforce professional in finding employment. And if someone tried to do it, it's almost impossible now. I'll give you a good example. Back in 1984, and I'm going to use one office as an example, say South Suburban area.
Let me ask you a question. I don't want to interrupt you and throw you off track.
Okay.
But
That's nothing to do with the question that
Is
we
that,
asked.
that's not the question that was
Right.
asked at this particular moment. So I want you to know that now. You want to get in here, but you got to get in here right.
Right, right.
Okay? Now, I got my question for you because you blew that one. This one goes to you, though, so you
Okay.
can tell me about your job platform.
Yes.
You support the third airport?
I do. Well, I do, but here's the thing. I believe that the
You
third.
support the third airport?
Yes, sir.
Okay, gotcha.
But, can I elaborate?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. Here's, the third airport is one industry. One industry among many jewel industries that we have in the Second Congressional District. In the Second Congressional District, there are some really exceptional industries on market. Companies tend to locate where they tend to make a profit. The marketable, let's say, industries in Second Congressional District include transportation, which is rail and trucking, the healthcare, which we have at least 5 different major hospitals in Second Congressional District. There's meat processing, Carl Buttock Meats and a few others. People are not aware, of course, automotive manufacturing, which is Ford Motor, and so forth. I think that the airport should be part of a total overall economic package to lure other businesses in. Not as just the main focus, but part of a total.
But don't you
overall
think
package.
it does that? If you create this big entity where there's jobs involved in construction, there's vendors, there's concession, doesn't it attract other businesses and other interests just on that premise alone?
Again, yes, sir, but that's only one focus and it's one industry, and it's correlated to, say, industries that
But you
are
do support the
sensitive.
third airport, that's all I want.
Right, right. I
And
am
if so, and if you do, who do you want to manage and operate the proposed airport?
Well, I believe right now that the state would be the best. The real issue has been the FAA and their oversight, but once that is done for a certain time frame, the state, and then I think once certain standards are met, it inevitably should go to Will County.
Cool, thank you. Fenton, you're a businessman, you own a law firm, correct?
Wait a minute.
I want to give him the same question, that's all.
Yeah, but you took my question away and took my question away from Mr. Fenton. Now, who gonna control what?
Fenton don't want that question,
Well,
nobody
but
ran from it.
you're still not giving him an opportunity to answer the question that I've asked already.
well,
We're gonna go back and
I'm gonna politely
we're gonna go
concede
back
to the
and I will
argument.
rephrase it again so that you can answer it. The First Congressional District has many areas in both the city and the south suburbs and that suffer from extreme poverty and homelessness. Because of the economic meltdown, what would you do and what programs would you support to create affordable housing across the district is where the question is at.
Okay.
And if he don't answer it, nudge him.
Okay.
Look into the camera.
Right, exactly. Okay. The program, the programs I would support. Again.
Don't say that anymore.
But specifically, the programs I would support are some, especially President Obama's Home Affordable Act program and so forth. But in addition to that, I would come up with some other programs that I would, let's say, submit for legislation.
What programs would that be?
Okay, one of them would be, of course, to identify, I would bring back the identifying those housing that are let's say currently in let's say vacated, and then put them not at market value. We talked earlier about the dollar issue that or the dollar availability that Mr. Fenton mentioned. I think that was an excellent program, so to speak. It's been going, as Mr. Beal mentioned, for over 15 years or longer. I would look forward to bringing that back to, of course, make it available for those who want to invest in housing. The other thing, and I think that's very important here, banks, for the most part, what they've done is they've changed their strategy. What we really need to do is give banks the incentive to invest in real estate. They've actually, since the downfall of the real estate industry or the mortgage industry, they shifted from investing in, let's say, land and mortgage and put it more toward businesses. We need to give banks the incentive to invest again and let's say, property, and that's what I would do.
Is that okay for you?
Yes, but right now, yes.
Could I just add a point?
That's ask the alderman, that's her
Talk about
question.
jobs.
Right, we'll jump in.
Well,
Can we-
about
Go ahead
extreme
if it's in
poverty,
regards to.
in regards
yes.
to poverty.
Thank you.
One of the things that I don't think a lot of us, we're not able to hear on the national stage a lot of discussion about how we eradicate poverty. And one of the things that I think the president just came out with in the State of the Union address was raising the federal minimum wage. Now, right now, the federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, which basically keeps you under the poverty line. You can work full-time and still be poor. And his suggestion was to raise it to $9.25 or $9 an hour. And the issue there is that if we're not attracting manufacturing jobs and attracting other kinds of industry, we have to recognize that the majority of our jobs right now are service sector jobs. They are low paying, low wage, they're retail, they're service sector jobs that are not living wage jobs to have. Now, doesn't mean that they don't play a role. We need them desperately. And when you see, one comes in, you talk about the Walmart, people lined up around the corner for these entry level, basically low wage, and sometimes, below the minimum wage, but they're at least $7.25 an hour, which is not enough to buy a market rent. It's not enough to rent a market rent 2-bedroom apartment without assistance. So if we're going to really start to lift the lower rungs, one of the first things we need to do is put more spending money in people's pockets. 70% of our economy is what people buy. It's what we purchase. If I don't have enough money to go out to dinner, then you don't need to hire any more waitresses to work in the restaurant. If I don't have enough money to buy a TV, then Best Buy closes. So we've got to figure out a way to, while we're attracting industry and other jobs, to put more spending power in people's pockets for the jobs that they have right now.
Get permission from the alderman if you want to.
I think I actually talked about that point, if I may. When we talk about energy independence, I think it goes to your point in terms of talking about purchase power.
Right.
When we look at the employment that will be available now and any of the employment available in the future, many of these jobs won't have the purchase power available to them to afford people living wage. And I've addressed that issue in talking about this issue is that if we had living wage jobs, we wouldn't have the payday lenders that are making droves of income off of our community. That goes to my point of why I don't support the third airport in Peatone. The third airport in Peatone, for me, is an issue that I don't think is being looked at in an economic, prudent way. When we look at the fact that the money that is going to be used to support a third airport is going to have to be disposable income, in which you spoke of, and the fact that people are not going to buy airplane tickets if they can't put bread on the table. The airline industry was one of the industries before the banking industry went down that got subsidized right after 9/11. The airline industry is ran off of jet fuel, which is the derivative of oil prices. So when we look at the cyclicality of the airline industry and knowing that that land could be used in the south suburbs to put 20 to 30,000 windmills up there that can drive free electricity into the community once that infrastructure is paid for. Now we talk about the real ability of lowering what people's purchase prices are in terms of the money that they spend. Right now it's $4.10 a gallon for people to drive. That money is leaving out of the district. When people are paying exorbitant prices in terms for electricity,
Mr. Jones,
that money is
Mr.
leaving out of the district.
You so eloquently put all of your statement. I didn't hear a thing that you were saying about housing.
On housing, when we talk about housing and what supports housing is the ability to afford housing and purchase that housing. If we have more disposable income that people are not spending in terms of, for a family right now that's driving, they're spending 15% more at the pump now. They're spending over 40% more at the pump since the recession hit in 2008. If that money that was going toward energy costs, in terms of heating and fueling cars, if that money could go into people's incomes in terms of being able to be in their pocket, they could buy the property right now that is foreclosed because it is actually at a price point that people could afford if they were not spending other sources of their income on the basic necessities that they have. Inflation is real, and as long as we have sustainable inflation, we won't have people having the purchase power to afford housing consistently from their own economics.
Okay, because we'll go around the table with this. I think we need to move on to another question. I'm going to allow Mr. Carl to give another question since he kept poking at me. But I think that we should go. I think we should go on to another question because everybody's going to interject and you're off the subject. So go to another question. Thank you, Carl.
Well, I had started with
Mr. Fenton.
Mr. Fenton here. You're a businessman, so you know business, right? And so the airport is very important to the south suburb, from what I understand. Do you support that third airport in the suburbs?
As a concept, I support the third airport.
A concept, what
Yeah,
does that mean?
conceptually, I mean, how can one not support any ideal that relates to job creation? Conceptually.
Okay.
But
Reality.
practically,
Okay.
but practically, I'm not certain. First off, I don't have enough information before me to discern whether or not it's a good idea. And also,
how could you not be certain about something that will create jobs? And one, why don't you have all the information for this?
there are a lot of programs and ideals that may create jobs.
We're talking about this one, this third airport.
Yeah, I mean, all I hear and all I see before me are concepts. I've heard of public partnerships. We talked about a third airport. As a businessman, what I know as a practical matter is that when you pull one string, another string is going
As
to
a
move.
businessman, you also have to deal with research and facts. So
Yeah.
if you're running for
I'm
this,
about to give
you're
you
running for this
research. I'm about to
district,
give you facts.
you have to know all the facts
But
about
here's
what's
the
going
fact.
on in the development of this.
Here's the fact.
Sure, okay.
Here's the fact. The fact is that we have 2 airports already. Ask the vendors who are already in those airports how well they're doing. Here's another fact. If you create a competing business and then you only have so many consumers in a marketplace, if those consumers are pulled from O'Hare and Midway, then what are the implications of the third airport on whole? Now, I'm not saying that it's not a good idea, but no one has those facts, and I haven't seen those facts.
Yeah.
Actually,
And here's the other issue, too. And Mr. Jones pointed out, it all sounds good. Everybody jumps on the bandwagon, and I'm not saying that it's not a good idea. But what I know is like you said, we had to subsidize the airport, the airline industry just a moment ago.
Well, you said
So
something.
what's gonna happen?
You said it all sounds good.
Yeah, it
Each
sounds
one of
good.
you people sitting here as a candidate for this district candidacy sounds good.
Yeah.
But who's going to make the best sense and who's going to make the reality of it? And when it happens, the voters will tell us that, and then you will have to proceed. So I want to go with Alderman Bill, and he wanted to interject. I see he was excited about this. and tell the camera right there.
Turn the camera and I follow right behind.
First of all,
Outstanding.
there are 29 subcontractors already that have been working on the third airport that has already created jobs. When you look at it, O'Hare and Midway, both, the FAA has reduced the flights because of overcapacity. Flights are being delayed and things like that, so they've reduced the flight. So that means there is a demand for more air traffic that really is pushing that third airport, the South Suburban Airport. That's number one. Number two, we have lost Delta and we have lost FedEx to this region because of the lack of capacity at Midway and O'Hare. So when you start looking at the facts are there needs to be another airport in the South Suburban area, and Gary, Chicago is not it because it doesn't have the capacity to really blow up like another airport can with 4 runways. So there's a lack of capacity at Gary, Chicago. So the thing is, that's why we have to make sure that the right person goes to Congress who understands these facts and knows how to bring the people together in order to make this third airport come to fruition. I have the largest development in the city of Chicago right now. I had to bring the Walmart unions in the city together, and that was a huge task. That was some heavy lifting that we did in the city of Chicago. So you need that same heavy lifting to get the third airport done. So millions of dollars have already been lent on bringing this thing together. Right now, there's about 1,000 acres that need to be assembled, and there's a contract on most of those properties to give you the 3,000 acres necessary to build that third airport. And so we want, and that's why my senator here we're going to make sure that she stays in Springfield to make sure that she delivers, to make sure that we get that money released so we can get those other acres in order to get that airport done. So again, you have to have the foresight to know what impact an airport will have on a region importing, exporting goods. Right now, we are second in the country for exporting corn. We can take that and we can become number 1 because now created the environment to where we can export corn and we can import other goods. And we have hubs here, ports here. There's so many things that really make me excited to make, to really make
So
these things
I'm
happen,
gonna,
create hundreds of thousands of jobs.
let Toya Hutchinson, who you want to stay in Springfield, but she wants to go to
We
D.C.
will have
She wants to go to
great
D.C.
relationship,
right?
because
And
I know she
I'm
knows
gonna let
Springfield,
her
and I'm gonna deliver
she's gonna be
in
the final
Congress.
word on this
We're gonna make it
question.
happen.
She's gonna be the final word on this question about the airport. So I know you have something to say about this, Toya. Please give us your language.
Part of one of the things we need to think about is how we've changed the way we enter into the commerce stream. So typically, when I order something online, I know it's coming from a distribution warehouse. It's either getting on a train, a truck, or a plane to get to my door once it happens. What we know that over the last 25 years, that cargo capacity has been greatly reduced, partly because of the size of runways, and partly because of landlocked issues. The fact that they've been arguing about this airport now for 40 years, and I just turned 39, part of it is the governance structure. You asked earlier, who would manage it? And really what it takes to solve that issue is to keep the eye on the prize, the eye on the fact that when you look at things regionally, that no plane, no train, no truck starts and stops one place and it hovers there. They come from north and south and east and west. The fact that I laid the groundwork for the Illiana construction, the construction of the Illiana Highway, which is going to be the first east-west highway built in Illinois since I-80, connecting Indiana to Illinois. What we have in Illinois is we're in the middle of the Midwest. We're in the middle of and this part of the second congressional district is like in the middle, going downstate, but just south of the greater Chicago metropolitan area. We got to remember that there's 102 counties in this state, and Chicago and Midway and O'Hare are at capacity, both for cargo and for passenger. When you remember what Midway looked like 50 years ago, if you remember driving up to the little, it was like a half circle, you could get right out and go right into Southwest Airlines, and Southwest was the only thing. Nobody ever dreamed that Midway was going to be a little mini O'Hare today. And the whole point of laying groundwork and infrastructure and planning and connecting roads and rails and water and bridges and all those things in a transportation infrastructure network with an opportunity to invest and grow greener and smarter than we ever have, because it won't be in silos, is to not think about where jobs are today. Is to think about what it's going to look like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 50
It sounds
years
like
from now.
she just endorsed me.
She endorsed herself going to Congress, and she wants you to stay as the alderman of the Ninth Ward. That's what she did. So we have a few questions left, and we're going to move on. So, Madam Chairman, you got the next question. Thank you, Joy.
Oh, wow. I don't know if I would want to run against you guys. Specifically, Mr. Hayes. I was going to say Haynes.
That's okay.
All right. Then. Specifically for you to start and then come around the table, if that would be.
Okay.
Specifically, what do you think are the top three? Listen very good. Top three challenges to the residents of the 2nd Congressional District. Not 55 of them, 3. And why do you think you are the best candidate to help solve those issues?
Can I interject here real quick
Surely.
for him? You get to do one.
That's with him. Let him answer the question like he needs to answer the
You
question.
get 3, but they better be 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3. Go.
Okay, go ahead.
Tap. Oh, you know
Wait,
what?
I got it.
I'm the
I
co-moderator.
got it.
Right.
Okay, because I see that there's a focus on, right, I got it.
You get 3
But
things.
I got you now. Okay, here's the thing. My first one, the main issue, of
Right.
course, has been jobs.
Jobs, okay.
I emphasize jobs.
Now
Can
go
I
to number
elaborate?
2. No, you did
Oh,
already.
We all know what jobs mean.
Okay, all right.
Number
Okay, but
two.
we already know that.
Yeah, number
Okay.
2.
The other one was gun violence. Okay.
Okay,
Now-
number 3.
Know what that means?
Number 3.
Okay,
Do number 3, and
oh,
then
the
you
number-
can come back to number 2.
Okay, all right. Well, of course, I wanted to really piggyback that with the assault weapons ban. Okay.
The gun violence,
An assault weapons ban, I wanted to emphasize that.
that's not all in one?
Okay, well, yeah.
Well, what would be
and
your
we'll say-
third one?
And job training, you know.
So that would go on with number
with
1.
job- Right.
You still haven't come up with 3.
Okay. Well,
Okay, so in those 2 focuses,
Right.
you may elaborate on 2 and 3, because 1 has already been elaborated on enough.
Okay. But let me say, in regard to giving
I mean,
back-
and I don't mean to cut off any of your ideas of what you, in regards to job creation, but I think everybody here have heard about job creation and everybody have an idea or concept on how we can create additional jobs. Go to the number 2, the violence and the guns.
Okay. Well, I will state that amongst the candidates, and about 2 weeks ago or whatever, I might have been the only one that stood out and basically stated that mandatory sentencing was the way to go. Now that I know that actually our civic leaders and everyone else has joined in, that's fantastic. But the bottom line is that I've stated initially that anybody that carried an unlicensed weapon, there should have been let's say 5 years mandatory sentencing. If it's fired, 10 years, 15 years if someone is shot. Now, here's the reason why I said that. The bottom line is that, these individuals are being, let's say, sentenced to 2 to 4 years. However, they're only doing 6 months to a year, and they're going back to the hood, and they're wearing a lot of times that, let's say, that jail time as a merit badge from the Boy Scouts. They got the chest out. If we start sending them away for 5, 10, 15 years, then immediately that they start to think twice before they put their hands on the gun. But here's what I emphasize, because everybody jumped on that bandwagon.
So you're saying that would be a deterrent?
That would be a deterrent, yeah.
You jumping on that bandwagon as well.
Let me finish.
As well.
No.
I'm because, I have a role too, and I'm gonna tell you this. That's absurd. You got people in the community who have decided to commit violent crimes. They know it's illegal to commit crimes. They know it's illegal to stand on the corner and sell dope. They know it's illegal to rape. But guess what? They don't go around asking, what's the penalty for rape? What's the penalty for drug sales before I do this? They know it's illegal and they do it. So putting a mandatory minimum on gun control from hood guys, as you say, is not going to deter anyone in my mind from using a gun if they've been programmed and trained to use guns as killers and as robbers.
Okay.
That right there.
Now let me just
go to
say.
your third. Go to your third. What's the
Okay,
third one
but
again?
I'm going to elaborate. That's one man's opinion, but also, and you didn't give me an opportunity to elaborate.
Well,
but here's the thing.
No, you can't keep cutting him off like that.
No, but he has to come on because they wrapping us up.
And I
somebody
understand that, but
else
he
wants
haven't
to
had as much.
Here's the thing. Again, it's already taken place in New York and Maryland, and there's statistics that indicate that it has actually reduced the gun violence there. In addition to that, the state laws, they dropped the state laws in regard and put in the federal laws in regards to the gun crime. You can't, I always say that gun violence is only a symptom of what's plaguing our community. You have to have economic development and jobs for the mothers and fathers, that are responsible for maintaining the household and or, let's say, for finding transportation, education, otherwise. The bottom line is that has to be done. So, it goes in coordination with the two, so to speak.
So you need a comprehensive plan.
Right,
In order to
Holistic
address
look
it,
at all of it.
sort of like,
Right,
the
exactly.
plan that I've had in place for a little while.
And
in
what I've been
2010,
trying to
when
say
I
all
passed the City of Chicago.
As
gun
Carl
ordinance
has
through
said,
my
our
committee.
time is getting very short, and we haven't had an opportunity to hear from Mr. Jones or Mr. Fenton. Would you elaborate on that last question?
3 top challenges, I would say culture, housing, and education.
See, I like that. See what you just did?
Energy infrastructure, sustainable employment, and safe communities.
Champions. I like that.
Jobs, public safety, and education.
Senator Hutchins.
Chronic unemployment, chronic undereducation, and changing the 40-year failed drug on wars to make it a public health issue, not a criminal issue. Then we really start getting at safe communities.
That's what I believe as well. Thank you.
On our last roundup, because our time is so short, we will allow you all to have your own personal words to say to the camera so that you can speak to the audience.
And we'll start off with my man right here because you go long.
Oh, you're going to
Get you out
you're
the
going
way.
to allow me,
Look at
you're
the
going to allow me to
camera
speak.
and give me your call.
You're going to cut me off?
No, okay.
You're not going to cut me off?
Go ahead.
If you go too long, you will get sliced.
We needed a timer.
Okay, right. No, actually, again, Gregory Haynes, and I am actually the only workforce development professional here. My real emphasis is to ensure that people receive job search assistance that they receive. Back in, let's say, 1999, the unemployment insurance rate nationally was 4.1%. And the appropriation for the funding was $761 million. Now is $703 million. When I get to Congress, I will ensure that the appropriation is there to provide job search assistance for people.
And I hope you get there.
Senator Hutchinson.
Thank you all for watching. I hope this was a bit of an informative event for you. We're all, I think, in this race to try to elevate conversations that we're not having across the national stage in this race. And so, if you don't remember anything else, my name is Toy Hutchinson, and I got in this race because I believe in this district. I have a record to stand on, and it goes with job creating and protecting families and bringing resources and investment back to our education system. But largely, when you go to the ballot, I want you to think about the fact that this is something that belongs to you. And for me, this congressional race was never, ever about who I could be. It was really about what it is we can do. So as you go make your decision amongst a whole lot of people on that ballot, please know that this seat belongs to you, not any one of us.
And I hope you get there as well, Toy.
Alderman Bill.
Well, I think we'll all get there because I'm going to invite everybody to my inauguration. I think we'll all get there, you know, if they accept my invitation.
I don't know if Hines will. I don't know if Haynes will.
Oh, no, me and Anthony.
I would like to thank you all for hosting, and I appreciate having this opportunity. But again, I'm Alderman Anthony Beal. I've been Alderman of the City of Chicago for 14 years, and I have a wide range of experience, dedication, and know-how as far as laying the groundwork for me to be the next congressman of the 2nd Congressional District. When you look at what an alderman does, everything that we do every single day is the same thing that we deal with on the federal level. And so being alderman is a great training ground. And let me just give you a few examples. Right now, I have the largest development in the city of Chicago going on right now off the Bishop Ford Expressway that's being anchored by Walmart, which are starter jobs, and we're going to have a host of other jobs go along with that. I've helped facilitate the Red Line upgrade that's going to be going on this summer in order to make sure we can get from downtown, from 95th to Cermak in a timely manner before we get to the CTA extension that we've been working on for a very long time on the south side, where we're going to extend the Red Line from 95th to 130th Street. I've built more senior housing than any alderman in the city of Chicago under my tenure, and we're really excited about that. I've built 4 state-of-the-art baseball fields to help my kids do something productive and be involved in some constructive leadership and team building skills, and that's what baseball does for you. I have the first water park on the south side of Chicago. I've rehabbed 1,300 units of affordable housing in Augier Murray with still 600 left to go. I've passed the City of Chicago's gun ordinance back in 2010. And again, I will build that 3rd airport and to make sure that we get those few 100,000 jobs. And lastly, Gwendolyn Brooks, the gem of the South Side as far as our high schools are concerned. I allocated $32 million for that. So lastly, let me just say this, ladies and gentlemen. If you want the right person, punch 104 to send Anthony Beal to be your next congressman of the 2nd Congressional District.
With all that stuff, you better get there.
Ernest Benson.
You're invited on the bus, too.
Lost my place in line. I am attorney Ernest B. Fenton. Stability in housing affects more than homes. In order to address the most pressing issues, jobs, crime, education, unemployment, underemployment, we must first stabilize the housing market. I've been fighting on behalf of homeowners for the past 7 years. I've consulted more than 20,000 people indirectly and directly in the 2nd District. You cannot attract nor support businesses in a community without first stabilizing that community if that community looks like a ghost town. Without attracting and supporting the businesses that currently exist in the community, then of course you won't have enough jobs available or the wages to pay those persons. So I've been in business for 17 years. I know nothing else other than creating jobs. Mr. Bill likes to propose that he's created something he has not. As an alderman, all you can do is facilitate. As a politician, you are nothing more than a facilitator and a servant. Walmart creates the jobs in his community. And in terms of facts that Toy and Mr. Bill spoke about in terms of the 3rd airport, well, they probably perhaps also believe in the facts that Fox News provides. But I know as a business person that you have to do way more due diligence than take a couple of sheets of so-called facts from a source that you cannot verify. Thank you.
So-
Once again, I'm Attorney Ernest P. Fenton.
So based on your statement, if you won, he's not invited, Alderman Bill. And based on that, and based on what you just said, if you win, he can't ride the bus.
He can still ride the bus. He can still ride the bus.
Still come?
Right.
Lee Allen Jones,
We
you
might even let
last-
him drive it.
You last on the Green Party. Wish you luck. Wish you luck on that.
I really appreciate the opportunity to be here, a part of this very serious discussion. My name is Lee Allen Jones. I'm running on the Green Party ticket for the 2nd Congressional District. I am in this campaign for decent people who find themselves desperate. People who only maybe 5 years ago thought of themselves as middle class, who look at themselves right now teetering on the edge of poverty. I am not running in this race for a third airport. I am not running this race about jobs. I'm looking at trying to create a sustainable community based upon the things that we already have. Right now, we're in the country that has over $16 trillion of debt. We're in the state that has almost $16 billion of debt. Many of the economic proposals you have heard here within this forum, they sound conceptually great, but the economics don't suggest that those plans have the opportunity to benefit your communities and your families in the wholesale way that they're being presented here today. My number one policy is energy sustainability. You know what energy sustainability is when you go put gas in your car and the needle keeps going up and your dollars keep depreciating. I am for safe communities. I believe that you should have the right to have access to security to secure your family and not allowing criminals to run rampant. I am in this campaign because I believe in your children and I believe in their opportunities to participate within a global community with an education that is comparable to anywhere else in the world. I have no gimmicks. I am from a new party with a new idea and a new message, and I look forward to getting your vote on April 9th because I have no primary challenge. You have that fun with the 22 Democrats that are in the race. Hope to see you April 9th, and I hope to get your vote. Go Green.
And we wish you a good luck as well. And I'm going to say my piece and then let the Madam Chairman wrap up. I want to thank you for coming out to this, being a part of this wonderful event with this fun and entertaining cast of characters here. Okay, and I'm Carl West, and it's on you.
Well, I'm glad to have been able to be a part of this as one of the moderators. As I stated in the beginning, it's not to gouge your eyes out, but we do need to hear from you all in regards to your ideas, your thoughts, your wishes and dreams on what you would like to have in the 2nd Congressional District. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're gonna get it.